Hello, Chiefs Kingdom, and welcome to the Arrowhead Kingdom Chiefs cast live from the Wolf Den. I'm Chris.
And I'm Josh, and this week we're going to be talking about the season that was and the playoffs that will be. And we're, as always, presented by Complete Weddings and Events, your leading provider of photo, video, DJ, photo booth lighting, and coordination services. Make sure that you check them out, and then also don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Help other people find us, and let's talk how Arrowhead Kingdom is feeling about this season. So, Chris, how would you sum up this season in, we'll say, 2 sentences or 3 bullet points?
It almost feels like it's 2 different seasons, to be honest with you, the first half and the second half.
Yeah.
I guess my big thing was it was a season of adjustments on both sides of the ball.
Yep. So for me, it's we won a game. We went 500. We won a lot of games. Mm-hmm. And now we're the 2 seed.
Yeah. And we almost had the 1 seed, but
yeah. I mean, that Bengals game, I maintain that it was an unfortunate loss, but make that a playoff game. There's just decisions that are made differently. It doesn't go down that way. So I'm not necessarily afraid of the Bengals and playing them again if it comes down to that. And I just kind of looked at the biggest problems that we had were early on in the season, and it was giving away games against the Ravens and the Chargers. It was failing to be up to the task for the Bills. And I'm not positive they got off the bus against the Titans. So that's kind of how I viewed all of those. And then really when it came down to it, if we put ourselves in a situation where you didn't get a lose to a team that ended up being the 4 seed, and they were a couple COVID protocol situations away from possibly being able to take our spot. So, that's it. You should be able to do that. I remember watching like a baseball analyst, and they were talking about like a Roger Clemens comeback, and he was pitching in AAA, and he hung a curveball and gave up a 2-run home run, and the team ended up losing 3-2. And it's just offense. You got to allow your pitcher the ability to take a risk and hang a curveball against a cleanup hitter and, know there's a possibility he's going to hit a 2-run home run. And you can be mad at him for that. But in a 3-2 game, you need to score more runs. And that's just it.
And I guess Roger Clemens, like, seriously, shut up.
Well, you're in AAA. Exactly. But I mean, I just kind of looked at it as that. And it's just, you're afforded the chance to, or you're afforded, understanding when you lose to a team like the Bengals in week 17. I mean, they were playing to end a lot of frustration. I mean, I recorded earlier today with a Bengals fan, and we talked about the last 7 playoff losses more than anything. We talked about the whole internet meme where nobody's ever sent a text message about a Bengals playoff win because texting wasn't invented by then. I personally think they're going to end this playoff futility this week and no longer be the team that had the longest streak between a playoff win. And I mean, I flat out said that to him. I remember January of 2016 when Niall Davis returned to kickoff against the Texans. And it's just like, we're not going to be this stat anymore.
Yeah, not today.
I don't even care what happens the rest of this playoffs. I'm just done hearing about that. It's just, let's reset that and use that as the first building block. And then they went and played the Tom Brady Patriots after that, and played a game that wasn't as close as the score looked. And that's kind of how that season was going to play out. And then disaster came the next year. But anyway,
we're not going to talk about those playoffs. But I mean, I feel like against the Titans, things really hit ahead because it really felt like the offense was really fighting themselves and just not able to accept the reality that defenses were just, I mean, I'll go ahead and say it, scared shitless of them getting behind them. And they were going to do anything and everything they could to not let Tyreek Hill or McCole Hardman or, anyone run behind them. And rather than take what you're given. I felt like Pat kept trying to force the ball down the field. I mean, he even had Tyreek, grumbling about how, irritated he was by not, getting deep shots. But they seem to finally embrace it, kind of, because I think they played the Giants after the Titans, and they kind of started to embrace it then. I think if
then it was the Packers.
Pat, yeah. But I think if Pat doesn't throw that interception that, when he was trying to hit Josh Gordon against the Giants and it went off Josh Gordon's hands, I think they probably would have rolled the Giants. But I think that kind of, brought back some PTSD from, turnover city that they had in the first 6 weeks of the season. But I think a lot of it was mental with them offensively.
Yeah.
And then defensively, I think it had a lot to do with, health, I think was a big thing, but then also,
absolutely,
getting more athletic defensively.
Yeah. I mean, I'll definitely say this. I was never on the let's fire Spags in the middle of the season wagon. Yeah. I was never there. The closest I got to being there was after that Titans game. And I kind of understand where people are coming from, but I'll also tell you this: after that Titans game, I put money on the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. So that's how far away from believing that I ever got, and at this point I'm kind of eyeing, an ideal situation for me is my friend who's a Titans fan who happens to be from Illinois, and maybe where that bet came from. What I'm hoping is that we have a situation where they play each other and we both had that bet, and maybe Vegas is just like, hey, we want nothing to do with whatever this is, and they give us both like 50% buyouts, and we buy tickets to the playoff game. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. I have no interest in sitting here and being like, oh, I'm going to see this until the bitter end because this is what I believed and I want all my money. It's like, I don't even care about any of that. Like I would love to turn this into, a high dollar playoff ticket is kind of where I'm at. But, I always kind of had belief in everything, but an analogy that I was thinking of is I haven't been in this situation because my kids aren't quite old enough yet, and I can't say that we've turned them into these live and die for sports and stuff like that, but I've seen stories and I have family members that have stories like this where you have the kid and they just latch on to a sport when they're 4 or 5 years old, and they play it a lot, and their parents are athletes and things of that nature, and so they end up putting themselves in a situation. One of my cousins was like this. So her son, who's now like going to be a pro golfer, so it gives you an idea of what this is. But both of his parents, my cousin and her husband, played college basketball, and so this kid is raised watching Michael Jordan highlight videos, and they started carrying a hoop around because he loved playing basketball. And this kid's doing like head fakes and post moves and stuff like that when he's 5-6 years old and stuff like that. So he starts getting into pee-wee basketball, and the dude can make layups. The dude's grabbing rebounds. He knows the structure of how a game is supposed to go, and it got to a point where he's beating all of these little league teams on his own. And my cousin's husband quit coaching the team because it was just a bad look, when the coach's son's going out and dropping 50 on these other kids and stuff. But there's a time when you have those kids that they get into a situation where maybe it's AAU, maybe it's middle school, maybe it's high school, whatever it is, but you go from being the hands down, no questions asked, biggest fish in the pond to where you suddenly have to kind of earn your keep, and you got somebody who's ready to get up and pop you back if you start stepping that way. That's a long way of saying that's kind of where I think the Chiefs offense was this year. The defense was unhealthy. We talked about this before the season. I made a comment where I thought the Chiefs had the ability to be really, really special because they were going to have a lockdown defense. And ultimately what I was describing is what the Buffalo Bills were for the first half of the season. And then, all the defense gets healthy, and they've kind of been a top 10 defense really since then. And aside from that Jamar Chase game where he went off, and the Broncos game where they just didn't really pay attention to Drew Lock kind of running all over the field, but then again, why would you even think that's going to be a part of the Denver Broncos game? Aside from those two, the defense just really stepped up, and they played championship level defense to the point where, if the Mahomes led offense is like it was in 2016 or even last year for that matter, against everybody but the Buccaneers, we're going to be beating people like by 40 in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think part of that too is it's helped the offense not press, because that was another thing in that Titans game. I mean, especially when Pat scrambled, I think he had 20 yards gained, and then he ended up trying to get extra yards and lost the football. They're now not trying to unnecessarily gain extra yards, or try and score 14 points on one drive, and I think that's really helped them out as well.
Yeah, and a lot of it is think of a situation where somebody's drowning. What's your instinct when you're drowning? It's to swim as hard as you can. You struggle because you don't want to drown, you don't want to die. But the smart thing to do is lay flat and breathe, right? And control your breathing. And it seems like that was kind of the struggle the Chiefs went through. They never recognized that the best way to not drown is to quit trying to swim as fast as you can to the shore and focus on not drowning. And that's really the change in the offense. And can't say that it was consistently happening week in and week out, but you're not going to get a tiger to change its stripes overnight. But by the time the season was over with, it seemed like the offense had become content with what they were doing. And you can't say that the stats weren't there for all the players. I mean, Mahomes had well over 4,000 yards passing. Darrell Williams had 1,000 yards from scrimmage. And Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce were top 15 receivers in all of football, like normal. It's like it's a normal year that didn't look normal. And I think a lot of that's because it just didn't feel normal. And it didn't feel normal because it wasn't normal. This was just an up and down kind of situation. And I was talking to Billy Trulove earlier, and here's the other thought that I had. I mean, this seems to me like one of those years in college basketball, which we've seen like we've had a lot recently, where you look at it and say there's not one dominant team. And so you have all these crazy upsets and everybody fills their brackets out and has these 4 and 5 seeds winning everything. Just turn around and watch Duke win it. It's like there's going to be a point, and that always ticks me off as a KU fan, but it's just there's always going to be a point where the best coaches, the best players, and the best pedigree is what's going to win out. And that's kind of what I'm thinking is going to end up happening with these playoffs. And when I look at the bracket, I mean, I don't expect a single wild card team to win from the AFC. And I don't think that anybody besides the Raiders are going to be particularly competitive. I can see them making it interesting against the Bengals, but I think
see the Patriots giving the Bills some problems.
I want to see it, but I think they just get popped. I really do. I'm not seeing them doing anything actually legit to make that game anything other than interesting for a Saturday night. If you want to watch football, that's what I'm looking at that for. The trendy pick is the 49ers to upset the Cowboys. I honestly don't see that. I don't. This seems like much ado about nothing. That's the 12-5 upset that everybody's picking. And, it's just come to find out the Cowboys are a pretty good team. Maybe that maybe that Big Ten, was a little more competitive at basketball than we thought it was. And, maybe that 5 seed Purdue isn't as big of a pushover as we think they are. That's what I think we're going to be seeing. Don't necessarily think I can picture them very vividly getting to an NFC championship game where you have Mike McCarthy versus the Packers to see who can do a better job of not winning the NFC championship, even though that would be one of the most entertaining things we could possibly have. Couple that with the Chiefs Raiders AFC championship, and I think you got a gold that you can't write. Those would be fun, but neither one of them are happening.
No. Although, I mean, the Cowboys Packers is much more likely to happen, but
I agree with that.
yeah, I don't know. I think, yeah, I agree with you. I think a lot of this is going to be chalk, at least probably through the divisional rounds.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's a good chance we got Chiefs, Titans, and what Packers and
Bucks are the two.
Bucks are the two. Okay, so yeah,
Yeah. Cowboys 3, Rams 4.
gotcha. So yeah, it seems very realistic to me this year because I mean, the Raiders backed their way in. The Steelers, I mean, we can talk about them here in a little bit, but they, in my opinion, have no business being in the playoffs. And the NFC was just so top heavy this year. I mean, yeah, I agree with you. It's hard seeing any of those wild card teams doing much of anything.
Oh, especially in the AFC, in the NFC.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, good God, the Eagles, are they going to be within 2 touchdowns of the Buccaneers after they've had the ball twice?
No.
Now, I was looking, the Eagles are going to have, I think it's the 14th, 15th, and 19th pick in the draft coming up, or it's the 15th, 16th, and 19th pick. But they have 3 of 5 picks in the first round. So I can see the Eagles being a team that's going to have to be dealt with here in the pretty near future. But I just think they were lucky to be there this year.
Yeah, we'll see what Jalen Hurts is made out of here in the next few years. But I mean, yeah, Nick Sirianni did a good job. Everyone thought the Eagles were going to be, they thought the Eagles were going to be like the Texans or something like that, but they were anything but. They were a good team this year, a pretty good team this year.
Eagles fans thought the Eagles were going to be like the Texans.
Oh, they always think they're going to be like the Texans.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about things that have surprised us in the league this year. Aside from the Eagles and the Raiders being in the playoffs, what would you say is the most surprising thing? And it could be somebody who drastically overachieved or underachieved on the AFC and then the NFC side.
The most surprising thing. I mean, probably Jonathan Taylor, just how he exploded onto the scene. Sure. And I think he carried the Colts, no pun intended, into playoff contention, but it also just showed how, I mean, I'll say this, you don't build a team around a running back. You can have Derrick Henry and you can have Jonathan Taylor, but if you don't have a quarterback who's not, in my opinion, top 10, but you can probably get away with, top 15.
Sure.
You're not going to go very far at all. So we'll see what happens to Carson Wentz, especially with all the comments by Jim Irsay here, and I think in the last couple of days. But Jonathan Taylor was a beast. I mean, he really was. I really felt like he was carrying that team offensively for most of the year.
Yeah, I think the Colts would definitely fit into a surprising situation for me. And it wasn't as much any one thing, but a kind of combination. Thought Wentz was going to be better. So it was a little surprising to see him, bomb out towards the beginning of the season. And then to see Jonathan Taylor carry him the way that he did to not be good enough to get into the playoffs and for it again to be about Wentz. So I would say that Wentz being as bad as he was surprising to me. I didn't think that it was possible for the Jags to be as bad as they were and the Urban Meyer thing to be as ineffective as it was. I mean, so that surprised me. But yeah, outside of that, I mean, the AFC landscape kind of looks like we thought it was going to be. I think that we would probably say the Chargers make it, not the Raiders. But outside of that, I mean, are you really that shocked about anything? I mean, the Ravens, it's hard to be shocked about them when they lost their entire running back depth chart in the preseason.
Well, I mean, Lamar was hurt for half the year.
Yeah, but I mean, even their complementary running backs. I mean, that was a problem for anybody that has a fantasy football team before it started. So you knew that was going to be a thing, and that the Ravens were going to kind of have their backs against the wall the whole time. So I mean, I would say if I was predicting playoffs again, I'd have to go back and look at what we recorded at the beginning of the year, but I wouldn't be shocked if we picked most of these playoff teams but maybe, favored the Browns a little bit over the Bengals. Maybe would have picked the Ravens to take the Steelers spot, so Browns and Ravens as opposed to Steelers and Bengals. I think we probably got that one wrong. I wouldn't be surprised if we said something like the Chargers are going to make the playoffs and the Raiders aren't even going to come close. So that's a surprising thing, but I don't think that any of us would have, put a bet against our mortgage that the Colts are getting in.
No.
Oh.
And I guess one other thing, I don't think this gets enough run, but the job Sean Payton did with the Saints this year,
Oh yeah.
Especially after losing Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
I mean, they were still going into the last weekend with a shot at the playoffs, but
sure.
No Michael Thomas. Alvin Kamara was hurt a good part of the year, and then you're rolling out, Trevor Siemian and Taysom Hill. I mean, I thought he did a really good job this year, and I don't think I've heard it really mentioned, at least in the circles I listen to.
Yeah, I mean, it comes up, but that's people looking for trendy takes and stuff. I mean, the Saints get no coverage, but I mean, not trying to say that fantasy football is anything that it isn't, but I also do think that it's kind of a pulse on what the league actually looks like. And who's the Saints player you had on your team? It's probably the defense.
Oh yeah,
that's it.
And Kamara, but yeah, again, he was hurt half the year.
Yeah, exactly. But
I mean, can vouch for. But yeah,
nobody that picked Kamara was happy about that. You weren't as mad as the Christian McCaffrey drafters, but nobody was happy about picking Kamara. Everybody was sitting there looking at it going like, oh God. So the guy that was left with Jonathan Taylor at the end of the first round that, settled for Cooper Kupp at the beginning of the second round is a guy that's going out and like rolling all your leagues. But, that's not what that was supposed to be by any means. It's just that the Saints had no playmakers at all, yet there they were at the end of the game. And they had a couple of signature wins, just totally bringing it to the Packers in week 1 and
shutting out the Bucks. That was a fun game to watch, but yeah.
Oh, I mean, it was fantastic. Yeah. I mean, and I can't stand watching a defensive battle like that. I mean, that's not fun to me at all, but it was fun watching that one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, so I guess let's get into this. First round playoff matchups. Who do you see coming out victorious in all the wild card games? So let's start with the AFC first. I think you're obviously picking the Chiefs, and we can maybe bounce past that one pretty quickly.
I mean, Chiefs, Bengals, Bills.
Yeah, exactly. So the 4 seeds, that's where I'm at as well. Chiefs, Bengals, Bills. So we'll be hosting the Bills next week, host the Steelers, host the Bills for a chance to potentially go play the Titans in Tennessee or welcome the Bengals, of all wild things.
Either way, yeah, it could be a revenge tour there.
Yeah, I mean, I think regardless this playoffs, if the Chiefs are going to make another Super Bowl, there's going to be some revenge tour. Yeah. The only way there's not any kind of revenge tour is if they somehow end up hosting a Patriots or Raiders team in the AFC Championship. And I mean, I guess nothing's outside of possible, but I don't see the Titans losing to either of those teams with a chance to host the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, I don't either. I just think they're too solid.
Yeah.
But I also think they have a pretty low ceiling. They're just really good. They just have a really high floor. That's what I see about the Titans.
Exactly. And high floor beats the Raiders. High floor, I think, beats the Bengals. I mean, the compelling argument for the Bengals, and the Bengals fan that I was talking to today, he made a comment that they stopped the run really well. So that's the chance you need to go against the Titans. If you can stop the run, make that team one-dimensional and say, Ryan Tannehill, you're going to beat us with whatever's left with Julio Jones and whatever you manage to get back from A.J. Brown this year. I can't say that I'd write that team's chances off, but at the same time, I just, Mike Vrabel over Zach Taylor.
I think Mike Vrabel's one of the best tacticians in the game. Like
Yeah,
exactly. In game decisions, he's one of the best, maybe the best.
So hoping to see Kansas City go to Tennessee. Got my flights and hotel booked, so that's what I'm looking for. True story, by the way. Did it last night.
I hope it happens.
Yeah. So we'll see if we're able to drag you along for that one if this happens.
As long as we can go visit Jack White's house, I'm good.
Oh, super. Yeah, let's do that. Hear about the supply chain tour.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, that's the best name for a tour I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Supply chain issues tour. Yeah, and I think he lives fairly close to Music Row. Just right off the Mungan Street, something to that effect. Interesting. He's an interesting guy.
He is. He actually, do you know I guess I don't know if it was just the first Milwaukee bowling alley or maybe the first bowling alley in this region here in Milwaukee. It's just a 2-lane bowling alley. It's actually kind of a staple of the city.
Yeah.
Jack White made a priority to go there. Like if you actually go in there and take the tour, the owner has a signed photo of Jack White.
Oh wow.
Like in his front window. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's right down off of Brady Street, right?
No, it's a little bit more southwest.
Oh, okay.
Not Betcher, but yeah, it's more like I think 28th and something. I can't think of the other cross street for some reason, but the Holler House is what it's called.
Okay. Holler House. Let's see here.
Yes.
Let's see where this is. We got Google here.
20th and Lincoln.
Oh, 20th and Lincoln.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty close to where I live.
But I highly recommend going in there. It's pretty cool. Just all the little things. The other thing is all the bras hanging from the ceiling.
Got it.
And the stories they have about that as well.
Got it. Holler House, Milwaukee. Okay. Yeah. So that reminds me, there was this place. It was 40. Well, the town's still 40 miles east out towards Kansas City in a town called Dorrance, where I grew up from Hayes. And they had this bar called Big Red Heine's. And the guy who ran the place was this massive dude with red hair. They called him Big Red. And so the thing was, you take a ceiling tile, you can go into this back room, you paint your butt red, and you sit on the ceiling tile. And so you had all the Big Red Heine's up on the ceiling and everything like that. And I don't know that we'll say disappointed. I was disappointed when I got to college and that place didn't exist anymore. I'm just like, man, this is a time where, I could make a trip out to Dorrance and hang out there. That seems like a place that degenerate college students should be, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yes. Big Red Heine's.
That'd be pretty cool to see.
Yeah. But I remember being there when I was in high school and I was working for my dad's home improvement company. And so we would go and put up gutter or something like that. And we would stop in there to get a drink. And so they would have the old Pepsi cooler, and you would have 2 or 3 cans of all these different sodas and stuff like that. And then over on the other side of the bar, the thing would be loaded with kegs. So you could just as easily go in and buy 2 kegs as you could 2 cans of Diet Mountain Dew. I thought that was great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So over on the NFC side, who do you see winning the games this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I see Dallas still being the 49ers. I think it's going to be a good game, though. I don't think it's going to be one-sided. Rams Cardinals is going to be very interesting, just because I still don't know how much I trust Matt Stafford, and I still don't think he's ever won a playoff game.
He's not.
But
0-3.
But the Cardinals are sliding right now. Yeah. So I think, I'm going to go with the Cardinals.
Cards are 8-1 on the road.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Cardinals in that one, and then yeah, Bucks over Eagles, hands down.
Yeah. So in that situation, we would have the Packers hosting the Cardinals, Cowboys, Bucks. So yeah. So I guess
Some good divisional games, man.
on a scale of 1 to 100, how likely do you think it is for our team to be playing against our locals for the Super Bowl?
50.
50. Yeah.
I know it's a trendy pick right now, but don't count out the Bucks. I mean,
yeah, I'm there with you. I mean, I think that if you're throwing out matchups, there's definitely a world where we don't make the Super Bowl. That's a world that I'm choosing to ignore at this point and assuming we're gonna make it. And the Bucks and the Packers, I wouldn't be surprised to be playing either one of them. Posted an article in the Arrowhead Kingdom earlier today that Bill Barnwell wrote. Apparently this was on ESPN Plus, so I definitely got to hear about the lack of interest in paying $7, which that was super. But Barnwell has the Chiefs and Rams playing in the Super Bowl with the Chiefs winning. So I think that would be interesting. I can't say that I expect it, but wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, it'd be a trendy matchup. I know that Roger Goodell is definitely hoping for a Mahomes Rodgers Super Bowl. I mean,
sure, yeah.
Why wouldn't he be?
They got to play each other one of these days, right?
That's right.
Well,
yeah.
and then there's the rumor that if the Packers make the Super Bowl, Rodgers will set out to protest COVID protocol.
Yeah, I heard that too.
I mean, that would be wild. And so let's just say that happens. We play Jordan Love again. Is there an asterisk by that Super Bowl?
Would it actually surprise you if Rodgers did that?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
3 months ago, I would have said, yeah,
so.
it would surprise me. But now, I mean, come on. I don't know.
I could see him doing that. And it's just, that guy's just weird, and I don't think anybody's quite figured out what makes him tick. And what I think is interesting is you have this weird relationship with his family. You've got these weird relationships that he's had. I mean, you go from Danica Patrick to Shailene Woodley. It's just, is there a possible way for those two women to be different, more different? And it seems like he's kind of taken on the personality of what you would expect would be the significant other for both of them.
Yeah. I just wonder how much he does what he does for the attention, because I think Aaron Rodgers loves attention.
Yeah, this is just kind of a long game. I mean, have you watched the South Parks, the new ones?
No,
on
I haven't.
Paramount Plus.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, so I mean, I can throw out something that's pretty obvious from the previews, but in these, it's 40 years in the future, and Cartman's a rabbi. And anybody who's watched South Park knows that there is no joke that's more long running than Cartman giving Kyle crap for being Jewish. And so Kyle just never accepts the entire thing and is just like, you're messing with me. I know you're messing with me. This is messed up. Stop it right now. And Cartman's just like, Kyle, do you really think that I would dedicate 30 plus years of my life just to mess with you? And Kyle's like, yes, I do.
Yes.
and so there's the whole, if Rodgers is doing this for attention, he has a lot of long games for attention. And if that's what's going on, you would have to think that at some point we're going to be watching some documentary 10, 15, 20 years down the road where Rodgers is in his 50s/60s, and he looks back and just says, man, you know what, I really kind of regretted not having a relationship with my parents. I really regretted threatening to go to Jeopardy that one summer. I really regret that I just had a prickly relationship with Mark Murphy and Brian Gutekunst. I really regret that I didn't play in Super Bowl 56 because I was protesting COVID protocol. Can you picture that?
To be honest with you, I think he'd be the other way. I think he would not be. I don't think he would be remorseful about anything.
So you think
That's
you
just
double
how I
down
see
on it?
him.
So you think you double
Yeah,
down on
I
it?
I I would double down. I think he does. That's my view of him. But
Yeah, and
I don't know.
I also kind of question, can you picture him as an announcer? Because I don't know that I can. I really don't.
No, I can't. Um,
He'd get hired by any network he wants to work at, but I can't picture him announcing,
no, I
which
can't see him
means
being
that
a color analyst. Like he's a guy who he has to be like the host. I mean, hence
oh,
why,
exactly.
you know,
Exactly.
his
So
thing
out
on Jeopardy. Yeah.
exactly, but outside of Jeopardy, what is that guy going to host? Do you think he's going to go host reality TV show or game shows?
I'm sure Game Show Network will probably put something out there with him
I'm
on it, or
sure they
TBS. I mean, who knows?
I'm
Yeah.
sure they would. And I question,
I
would
mean, Dwayne
he?
Wade hosts a game show. I mean, so
Yeah, I mean, Dwayne Wade's married to Gabrielle Union though, and
yes,
he's kind of always been that way. And I don't know. There's a part of me that thinks that there's an equal chance that Rodgers just retires and you don't see him until he's 70, and he just happens to be back in Lambeau because he was in Green Bay for whatever reason. It's just like, oh, we didn't invite him. He was here.
yeah, yeah. Well, hopefully we get to find out if that's going to happen or not,
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
think that
yeah,
would
yeah.
be.
All we got to do is just stay alive. So there we
That's right.
go.
That's right.
I don't think this gets less interesting. And that's it.
No,
And that was part of what I
no.
was saying. Like, I don't picture him going on this remorse tour even 15 years down the road, which means that he's either going to go out and double down or he's going to do nothing and he's going to give us nothing. And I think I'd almost bet on him giving us nothing. He's tried to give us nothing most of his career. And he just
Yeah,
doesn't get away with it.
no,
So, yeah.
no.
Well, so if this last week was a song, where are you going?
I'm going to take a stab at the Steelers and their fans. My last week as a song is going to be "Renegade" by Stixx.
There you go.
And don't get me wrong, I love that song. I think it's a great song, but I still don't get it. Like how does that song get you pumped up? I guess in a frenzy for a football game, or at least in the middle of a football game. I just don't see it. And I've watched a few YouTube videos of it and all that. And I'm sorry, like there are better songs to like get your crowd up in a frenzy than Renegade. That's just my opinion.
There's not a Stixx song that gets me excited about anything other than listening to Stixx. Anyway, so mine, I wrote my column this week that the Broncos treated this last game like it was their Super Bowl, because it was. I think that they were very motivated to not get swept 7 seasons in a row, but it happened. So they, like fate in the Blink-182 song, "Feeling This," fell short this time. So
Nice.
that's where we're at. Smile fades in the summer. You guys might be grinning right now that you fired Fangio and think you're going to lure Denver, Aaron Rodgers to Denver and stuff like that. But I think that
Yeah,
smile is going
or
to
Eric
fade in the
Bieniemy
summer
from
too.
us. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what?
Yeah.
Eric Bieniemy can go coach them. He should be a head coach.
Mhm.
I'm not in the mood to be, selective about where he can and can't go. If he wants to go coach the
No,
Denver
I'm not either.
Broncos, by all means. He's a CU guy. There's a
Mhm.
level of that makes enough sense.
Mhm.
He's not going to go in there and turn Drew Lock into a threat to what we're doing.
No, and
So,
I also don't think Drew Lock is going to be their quarterback next year. But yeah,
I don't either, but who is going to be? They're going to go out and draft somebody. They're going to lure Jimmy Garoppolo to town. What are they doing?
maybe.
They
I think
might.
they bring in a veteran quarterback. Yeah.
Well, and I was talking to Josh Rosswag on the Steelers thing about that, and my comment to him was, let's think about Jimmy Garoppolo. We agreed that he would be a perfect Steelers fit, but the Steelers aren't going to give up a first round pick, let alone that plus something else, to bring in a veteran. They'll play Mason
And to
Rudolph
take
and
on his contract. Yeah.
yeah, they'll play Mason Rudolph and just take a losing season for the first time in Mike Tomlin's tenure, and it'll be fine. And those guys have earned the patience from the fans. But when it comes to other quarterbacks that might be available, the names that I threw out are, let's say Jameis Winston's available. Let's say Teddy Bridgewater. Let's say that the Panthers get tired of dealing with Sam Darnold. And I think that was a list. It's just, that's your veteran quarterbacks that are going to be available, or take a flyer on Fitzmagic. Who was the veteran quarterback that's on that list, or another one that you can come up with that Denver's going after?
I think Garoppolo, I think Aaron Rodgers is in play. I'm not saying he's going to go there, but I think he's in play. Yeah, I have to think a little bit more about specific veterans I think could go there, but I mean, they have a window with their skill players that they're going to waste if they don't get at least someone that is as or more serviceable than Teddy Bridgewater, because they've really, that is a talented roster, I think, outside of the quarterback position.
I agree,
especially offensively. So, and I'm just, I know John Elway isn't running that team or making personnel moves per se, but still, I think, whenever that team actually gets an owner, I still think they're going to take on the same strategy of trying to bring on, a proven quarterback by whatever means necessary.
I guess I'll throw one more out. And this is just to kind of keep proving the point. I don't think anybody's available. What you're talking about, if Aaron Rodgers stays put, there's nobody available. And that's what I honestly believe. Mitch Trubisky. So we'll add his name to it as well.
Deshaun Watson.
Is he going to play?
He could. Who knows?
And I mean, and that's a god awful high value trade as well. It just, I'm kind of the opinion that we can't really count Deshaun Watson until we're told otherwise. And every day that he isn't in the NFL makes me more think that it's possible he never plays again. Or this is going to be a Mike Vick situation where he's going to have to do his prison sentence, which the longer this drags on, the more likely I think a prison sentence is.
Well, his prison sentence is going to be longer than Mike Vick's, if that ends up happening. At least it should.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, and I've said this numerous times, like Mike Vick is the one person in the history of the U.S. criminal justice system that's served a full term. It's like he did the full thing. There was no getting out, early or anything like that, as a high profile, at least. I'm not going to say that nobody's ever served their whole term, but he's the high profile guy that served his full term. I can't think of anybody else that had the level of notoriety he does that just truly repaid what his debt to society was, according to the courts. And maybe Deshaun Watson gets something similar to that. So 3 years from now, when he's 4 years out of football, he's not even going to be Deshaun Watson anymore. So
no, he won't.
I just the fact that there wasn't even a joke about him sniffing the field this year makes me question if he's going to this next year.
Yeah, I just don't know enough about his situation to know one way or the other right now, but his name will still be out there, especially around, I think, April when the draft comes up. I think his name's going to come up.
Sure, I agree. And I mean, there's nothing I'd love more than the Broncos to do than give up their entire draft to get him, and then he goes to jail. That's
that would be great, but
that's justice for everybody in this situation. But it's just I really feel like if the NFL was going to let him play until this whole thing works itself out, it would have happened this season. And if this thing hasn't worked itself out now, they're either in deep negotiations to give all these women his next 10 years worth of salary, or this is in, all these different grand jury hearings, and we're just waiting for this, trial that's going to put him behind bars. That's what I'm thinking. And this is based on nothing other than just this has been too quiet.
It has been quiet, but I mean, it's the NFL. That's all I gotta say.
The NFL does a good job of sweeping stuff under the rug, and
they do.
And this isn't sweeping stuff under the rug, because sweeping stuff under the rug is he's playing.
Yes and no. I mean, you still got to look at the side of the coin where he doesn't want to play a snap for the Texans, and he's still in a way bound to that franchise contractually. It's such a complex situation. If he wanted to play football and he's in this situation for the Texans, let me put it that way, I would be on board with what you're saying. But the whole fact that he was trying to shoot his way out of town, I think the Texans are done with him too because of that. And of course, you add on what's now come to light with all the claims against him. I think that I think I don't like using the term held hostage because he's put himself in this situation. As far as what he's been accused of, which you have your opinion on that, but I still think that there's some element where he's still handcuffed by the Texans.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting offseason for that.
It will be. It's a situation I don't know a whole lot about. And to your point, I mean, since it's been so quiet and there has been a lot of information coming out, I don't think really anybody outside of who's directly involved in that situation has any idea what's going on.
Got it. Yeah, so I think we're in pretty agreement that the biggest domino, if it does fall, is Rodgers. I think he's staying in Green Bay. That's me. I don't think there's a chance in hell Wilson's going anywhere. So outside of that, Deshaun Watson's the X factor. Garoppolo is probably the biggest name. So who's going to overpay for him the most? In this situation, I hope it's Denver. I hope that's who they're left with, and they overpay the most. And
I think you're going to see Denver do that. Maybe not specifically Garoppolo, but yeah, I see them overpaying to bring in a quarterback.
I just don't know who they possibly can overpay aside from Garoppolo.
Yeah, we'll probably find out.
But I'm excited to see him try. But yeah, I'm excited to see him try.
I'm sure there are some options we're not thinking about that once the draft time comes around, it's going to be like, oh, okay, really?
Yeah, but sure.
Who knows?
Flacco might be available. He can go back there. Here's a wild idea. What if the Lions figure out a way to get Jared Goff out of town? Denver take him.
I would love to see them try and take a chance on him because I've always had a low opinion of Jared Goff.
Sure.
I would much rather have Jimmy Garoppolo than Jared Goff. But
yeah. Well, cheers to the Broncos potentially reaching. Anything else we need to talk about tonight?
I mean, you got a score prediction for Sunday night?
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs are favored by 12.5. I think they win by 14. I had the let me look here. I had the score line because the over under is the part that I thought was the most interesting. And I want to say it's Chiefs by 12.5. And the over under was set at 46. So essentially that's assuming another game like week 16. So, I think that's pretty accurate. So let's say 35-21, they cover the over. The Steelers come out Big Ben like a warrior, keeps it interesting until the fourth quarter when the Mahomes and company put it away.
Yeah, I got a 28-17, I think the Chiefs, I don't think the Chiefs will want to show too many cards. I think they'll get out to an early lead and just keep the Steelers at arm's length for pretty much, I think, past the first quarter.
Yeah, Billy Trulev said pretty much the same thing. his comment was, this is going to be similar to week 18 against the Steelers. Andy Reid's going to treat this like a regular season game and try not to show too much and stuff. And I can definitely see that. I can definitely see that. I hope that we're not getting together on Sunday night to watch a boring game, but I'd much rather have a repeat of what week 16 was, because I can tell you, Brian and I had fun during that game.
Yep, I would take that. I don't need any stress on wild card weekend.
Exactly. All right. Well, go Chiefs. We'll see you this weekend.
Chiefs.
Yep.